Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Studio 6 Paranormal Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Hill, with my co-host, Shane Feek. And we have two wonderful new guests here, Maeve Ybabnez and Amanda Hanna. Yes. And from the Wicked Wonders Paranormal team.
Correct.
So
nice.
So we're here tonight to talk about a documentary film that came onto my radar probably about 3 months ago, and it seems to be one of the lifetime kind of things that you get talented people together to actually do a real good documentary. And these two beautiful people were there, and they have been talking about it and talking to me about it. And I would like them to introduce what they do, who they are, what they do, and who they worked with, and what this documentary is about. So whichever one wants to go first, please.
Always. Hi, guys. I'm Maeve. I'm half of Wicked Wonders. I've been investigating the paranormal, I guess, since about the 90s. I was a teenager in the 90s. So I got started with a notepad and a cassette tape player. So
hey, that's cool.
Yeah, so I've been doing it with them. I've been off and on a team or two, and basically we just kind of landed. Me and Amanda have been friends forever, since middle school, sort of. So we just kind of happened to fall in our laps. So it was one of those perfect alignments of stars. Right.
Excellent.
So tell us how you both got started actually in this doc. Well, actually, let's start first off with you guys. When you guys came together, what was your love for the paranormal? I mean, what was the one thing that you said, hey, let's do this together?
Amanda, you go right ahead.
Honestly, it was okay. So we were friends in middle school, but there was a gap there where we weren't very close. We weren't like besties, and we would run into each other here and there and that sort of thing, and always be super friendly to one another. I was always so happy to see her. But I got interested. I've been doing it for a long time. I'm like you're a medium. I'm not quite a medium, but I am empathic, and it's something that I've dealt with my whole life. And so the passing of my dad, I had an experience where I was so sure it was him. And that was like the catalyst for me wanting to really, go, full force into this. But it wasn't all that long after that Maeve actually posted something on Facebook, like in the early years of Facebook, that she was going on this investigation. And so I'm like, how were you able to do this? And she was like, well, there happens to be one extra spot. Do you want to go? And it was like, absolutely. And we had one really awkward lunch, and we've not been
Nice.
I tagged along. She met some people and tagged along on a team. And like she just said, it just all sort of fell into place that she and I worked so well together. Like where I have weaknesses, she carries those strengths, and vice versa. And plus, I'm more spiritually led on these investigations, and she is very, very logical, level-headed.
My girl.
Religion. She studied religion, and she's very scientific minded. So we kind of balance each other out perfectly. So it just kind of was a no-brainer to go from there.
Yeah, that's
me and Shane are the same way. He's the yin and the yang, and
I'm the science guy. He's the spirit guy.
Yep.
Yes.
So, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you guys got involved with Ken Hunter?
Okay. Yeah, we again, right place, right time. We met the director producer of this movie a few years ago, and just kind of fell in love with his vision, and we put 100% trust in him. He put 100% trust in us, and we started filming small things together, doing small investigations together. And he has directed and produced horror films, or one bit good big horror film before this one, and so that's where his background was. Okay. And he had in mind that he wanted to kind of tap into this paranormal industry, and happened to run into us. it all kind of fell into place. And with his horror background, he knew Kane. And so he just kind of approached Kane with this project, and it went from there. So I can't say that we took any credit for it. Tony was the mastermind behind it.
The stars aligned just right.
Exactly.
It did. It really did.
Yeah.
You bump into the right people at the right time.
Yeah.
We took a break from investigating. We did home investigations with our prior group, and we both just kind of grew out of that, I think. And we had taken a little bit of vacation because we love horror films and we love cryptids and we love UFOs. And I mean, we're not just limited to ghosts. And so we started going to these horror conventions, and it was just during one of those conventions in Raleigh that we just happened to bump into Tony. And
Right.
the rest is history, as they say.
Now, have you done any other work with him besides the last one
We have.
Okay.
Yep. Actually, I was talking to him just a little bit. He was just on a podcast too. So, and we were all just kind of chit chatting about, And, we do have something coming up. He said he's going to probably release some information about it around February or so, but it was probably one of the worst investigations we've ever done. Anything that could go wrong did go wrong. So it's going to be super entertaining.
It was more than Murphy's Law. This was nuts. Like, as investigators, you guys are, if you watch it, you're going to literally sit at home with your chin on the floor, because it took me like 6 weeks to get mine off the floor.
Right.
It was just, if it could go wrong, it did go wrong. It was just ridiculous. But we can't talk about it too much. But we can say that it's definitely not the same thing as this one we've done with Kane.
Right. Let's get into a little bit of the details of the investigation with Kane. Talk about your first impressions of this place.
Of the
it's the hospital, correct? Is that what it is?
It's a hotel.
Hotel. Yeah. Hotel. What was your first impression? And I'll let you both answer. What was your first impression about it that really kind of moved you?
For me, it was sheer intimidation. I mean, I've lived here my whole life, and of course, I've heard of the Grand Old Lady Hotel, but I had never been there myself. And it wasn't until I went the first time that I realized how it's like kind of hidden in plain sight. I don't know how I've lived here all this time and didn't see it, but driving up on it, it is just like this foreboding, enormous structure on this tiny little mountain road that you would never think is back there. And so when you first pull up to this building, when you first see it, it's a shock. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like, whoa, I mean, for me, it was just sheer intimidation.
Wow. Okay.
I was just super curious because, to be honest, I'd lived there my whole life too. Like me and Amanda grew up pretty much down the like super close to each other, and this place is in our hometown. And I think maybe I'd driven past it like twice, but I never really noticed it. It was one of those places that's really tucked away. And the first time I drove by it, knowing that I was getting ready to go into it, that I just had to sit there for a minute and just soak it in, because like Amanda said, it's huge and it's a small mountain town. Like, we're from a small mountain town, and this is probably the biggest structure anywhere around, and it's so hidden, but not. It's just, I don't know. It's really strange to me that it didn't play a bigger role in my childhood, because it was right down the road.
Right. Now, can you talk a little bit about the history of this hospital, or the hotel? Sorry, hospital. Yeah,
Amanda's
a little bit about the history.
I just don't want to talk over anybody. Okay, so it was built in the turn of the century, so it's a little over 100 years old, and it was built. There's a railroad track that runs right in front of it, so it was built because of the railroad. But a little further back history is the railroad was actually built on we call it a thoroughfare, but it paints the wrong mental picture. It's a walking trail that essentially formed a road because it had been used and walked on so much. But that thoroughfare was used by Rutherford Trace, which I don't know what you know about Rutherford Trace, but essentially he was to come through with his small, group of military men and remove gently remove the Native Americans, the Cherokee Indians, from that
Right.
land. And as we all know, if you studied Rutherford Trace at all, or General Rutherford, is he was brutal, he was vicious, and he was not being gentle. I mean, he was on the command of kill no women, no children, only kill the men if you absolutely have to. And he kind of came through, and he was the guy that burnt down the villages. And
Oh wow.
It was told that essentially he kind of left no man standing and stole their livestock and kept on moving. So that came through, and then the railroad was built right on that spot, and then the hotel was built to service the railroad. So it's got military war history, it's got Native American history, and not to mention the fact that it was such a bustling railroad town for a while. So there were a lot of people coming in just to stay. And then you had the people who, in that era, and you hear this a lot with the asylums or the hospitals, and they believed that the mountain air cured multiple diseases. So you had a lot of sick that would come here to get that mountain air. And there's a spring in the back, so they would get that natural spring water. So, I mean, there's a lot of layers of activity to the place as it stands.
Right.
It's over 40,000 square feet, so it's an enormous.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a big building.
Yeah, it's a big building.
Yeah. So the investigation, what was one of the first things that you experienced while you were investigating?
I know, we did a pre-investigation, and we went up and stayed. We must have stayed the night in that place just a handful of times. One of the things that happened to me, we had taken a break at some point, and I was going to go lay down and just take a nap because I like to sleep. And I had gone to my room and laid down, and it literally sounded like, actually I say it was probably, the dresser drawer was slightly open and it slammed shut really hard.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, I tried to close my eyes because I was trying to sleep, and I ended up having to call my husband and talk me, give me some courage to get up out of this bed and get to the hallway, because it startled me and I was not expecting it at all. But that was one of my first experiences there.
Okay. Amanda, did you have one?
Yeah. Well, I actually have two. Like, we did the pre-investigation, and something happened pretty quickly on that one. And then when we went back with Kane and did the second investigation, something pretty quickly happened there too. But when we went for the pre-investigation, she'd had the power was shut off because it was through the winter. It was in their downtime, So she only, basically ran power to the area that she lived in. But she had turned on the power just to one side of the hall on the first floor, and it was like 6 or 7 rooms. And she kind of warned us, because we're all using window units, we're all using the lights and that sort of thing, that we could throw a breaker. And so when that happens, it'll take out that whole side of the hall. She showed us where the breaker box was and just to flip it back. And so it kept happening in my room. And so it didn't take me long to realize that it wasn't happening on the whole length of the hallway, though, just in my room, over and over and over.
Physics are being
to the point that we ended up sleeping in the library on the floor. And it sounds stupid, but it's true. Like, I say we just had to go trip a breaker, but that breaker was at the end of this terribly terrifying hallway. Next to the scariest set of stairs in the whole place. And, there's these tiny little night lights in the hall, and that's all you got. So there was only so many times I was going to trip that breaker.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Wow.
And then when we went back with Kane, Maeve has since then moved to Chattanooga, so she didn't get there. We had one night without Maeve. It was everybody but her there. And we were all sitting in the lobby of the hotel. And at this point, I mean, the lights are on. It's a functioning hotel. It's during the fall. It's, as normal. But we're all sitting in the lobby kind of trying to get to know each other. And the computer behind the desk turns on, which she said it was completely off. It wasn't like it was asleep. But it turns on and starts playing this old-timey music over the loudspeakers. And it was so creepy. But we didn't have cameras. I mean, obviously, we'd all just gotten there and we're just chit-chatting. But, yeah, that was pretty creepy to have that music just pop on over the loudspeaker. That, like, old-timey creepy music anyway. Yeah.
So I got questions. So So when you guys go there, I haven't honestly seen this documentary yet. So I've read the reviews, and I have a basic idea how it works. But just wondering, what key pieces of equipment did you guys use, and why did you pick them? Either any of you?
Well, we chose the Ovilus, obviously. Okay. Not only did Kane really like that, but cinematically it works well.
Sure.
It's clear verbiage. It says it on the screen. And I find it to be one of the easiest ways to differentiate intelligent type of hauntings versus and quickly,
Sure, makes sense.
So we use that when it's kind of an old trusty. We also use the SLS camera some.
Okay.
I don't fully rely on an SLS camera because well, its job is to make humanoid forms, so it's going to find those within the
everywhere.
range.
Yeah, shadows.
Yeah. But occasionally, you will get these instances where you can ask it to do something, and it does it. Or if you can say, "Can you come over here and sit down?" and it comes over and sits down. That's not it just pulling a form from a door frame or what have you. So if you can, we always try to get those like really cool experiences with the SLS.
Sure.
And then just,
if you can have it.
Beyond
if you can manipulate it like that, if you can ask it.
Exactly.
I've seen that.
We're not
that's kind of like the only telltale sign that you're really going to say, I'm going to rely on this. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. There's me and Shane have talked about different pieces of equipment we know that are just shouldn't be in the field, but
they're just not reliable at all.
No, but there are some of the simpler ones that are, I use a recorder on my phone.
I use my recorder on my phone.
I've caught in some great things with that. So
same.
Now is there some place that let's say you guys are part of the Wicked Wanderers. Okay, so you guys have a favorite place that you've gone to?
We have so many
places.
So many.
So many.
Yeah, she and I have been steady going at this since 2013. So, and we started, our very first one together was Waverly Hills Sanitarium. So we started big and we have continued big.
Amanda, I need to ask you, because I could see your gifts. I could see that you are gifted. How did that make you feel when you experienced that place? What was the initial feeling? Was it an overwhelming feeling, or was it something of chaos, or was it something of...
That's a really good question. It was 150% overwhelming. And let me just say, the first time we went was a totally different experience than when we went back. The first time I went, it was a very... It felt dark and scary, and I felt like I needed to get out of there, like I didn't feel safe in there. The second time we went, it was a completely different experience. It was playful, and I had a blast. I mean, we ended up cutting up and playing all night. It was just a total. But a lot of places are like that. But I will say that it was the first time that I ever experienced, and I've experienced it multiple times since, but it was the first time I ever experienced that feeling like you had a million sets of eyes staring at you.
Oh, yeah.
Like I couldn't get away from it. There was nowhere in there that I could get away from it. I've learned to cope with that, but it being my first one, oh my goodness.
It's very overwhelming. I know, that's why I asked, because I could see that whole, holy cow, oh my God, that I could just feel that, that, like you said, the eyes are all on you.
Yeah, they're everywhere. And I mean, honestly, I held Maeve's hand the biggest part of the time we were there. I was scared to death.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I basically have, not wanted to really go to an asylum or whatever, just because of that.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I'm not worried about it, that I'm not really scared about it. It's just the fact that it's very overwhelming. You know what I mean? I'm used to dealing with...
Being a science guy, I don't got to worry about it.
Yeah.
It can take days.
Look at me. I don't care. I can't see you. I can't tell you there.
Right. But yeah, I just, I can deal with a handful of people. So doing gallery readings, I can deal with 20 people. Yeah. But when you've got that many people in that large of a location, that's just overwhelming.
Well, and when you have that many, and you'll be able to relate to this. I mean, it's one thing to have them all standing around staring at you, but when they realize your abilities, it's like, oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
because it's
yeah.
like you can't get anything clear from anybody. And at
No.
that
Oh,
point,
yeah.
I'm useless. I'm like,
No.
"Ugh," you
No,
know?
it's like it reminds me of it would remind me of basically like going to like a banquet and you've got 50 people in one room, they're all talking, or even a party or something, you're all
Yeah.
talking or whatever, and not necessarily talking at you, but you come across these things. I've experienced that when I was like before I was 12, you know what I mean? But it was just the weirdest thing. But being in a place that big, I just don't have a real desire because of I wouldn't want to help everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just
Yeah.
would want to be like, but there's so much, the balance there is so shifty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's people that probably need help, and then there's spirits that need help, and then there's spirits that don't want to help.
They,
You know
they
what I
don't
mean?
want it.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
They don't want it. Yeah.
So I feel like sometimes gifted people are kind of put themselves in harm's way by doing that, and I'm not knocking anything about asylums or nothing like that because I think it has its place. You know what I mean? But I mean, you really have to think about what are you really doing there? You know what I mean? Because it's just
I mean, I think it's really important that you're bringing that up. I mean, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who have abilities, and I mean, I can say that like it's been good for me because and really kind of honing in on my abilities has brought me strength in a way that you wouldn't believe. But it's also, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that it hasn't affected my mental health negatively, because it definitely, I've had to really learn when to step away from whether it's people or social media or what a location. Like you have to know like where your limit is.
Right. Oh yeah. Now, do you rely on Maeve to kind of keep you close? Like you guys, I sense you guys are really close. Like she reels you in. Like, okay.
For sure.
Okay.
You totally nailed that.
Yeah.
Totally nailed
Oh my God. I mean, like, I keep getting the word kismet.
The word what?
Kismet. You know, like chemistry.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's just, yeah. And like, if you are off doing this or doing that and this, and she reels you in. You know what I mean? Like, okay, let's do this, or let's.
1,000,000%.
Okay.
Focus.
See, but that is key when two people can connect like that and are doing this kind of work and trying to get the truth and the history and helping, either ones that have passed or ones that are even on this side that need help in the paranormal or whatever. I think that you guys are perfect team.
Yay! I think so too.
Yeah. Seriously, I mean, and I was told to say to don't cut yourself short, Amanda, with your gifts, because you've got some good ones.
Thank you.
And
she really does.
She does.
Really does.
And Maeve sees that, and I know she does. I mean,
and I really do cut myself short. It's crazy that you
do the same thing.
That.
So yeah,
because I'm terrified of them. I'm embracing them, but I'm terrified of them, and I'm also like, my mother has raised me to fear judgment, and I'm from this small Bible Belt town, and I've had to face a lot of scrutiny for coming out as what I am. So I'm struggling to own it myself. I mean, that's
okay. You're not alone. You're not alone in that. I dealt with that too. It was like coming out of the closet. I was not wanting to do that. And oh my gosh. I mean, I was just, once I did it, I felt, okay, this is who I am. This is,
I'm not there yet. I'm trying to get there.
Well, and in time, yeah, you will. I mean, but I think that, do you have an investigation probably coming up soon?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that investigation is probably going to lead you to make a choice. So you'll have to be on the lookout for that.
Okay.
So I don't always do this for people or do this, like give them like, it just sometimes it's just what I get messages and I see stuff, especially when we talk about gifts, because I see you have great gifts and I can see that. And I could see the chemistry that you two have. And so it's important that I say those things and that I, let you know that you're on the other side's radar as that. You know what I mean? So there may be a next step that you need to take. And like my mother has always told me, even when she's passed, it's just, like a bump in the road. You just got to step over that bump.
Yeah.
And then, once you step over that line and, things will open up, and then you'll be like getting your aha moment, so yeah. But
So I
No,
have
I appreciate all of this.
yeah, no,
I really do.
go ahead, Shane.
so I have a question for Maeve. So aside from just your Ovilus sessions, what other kinds of data do you guys take, and who gets stuck analyzing it, and what kind of things
Yeah,
happen? I'm assuming
yeah.
you're the one that gets stuck.
Usually, actually, no. Believe it or not, I don't.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, Amanda usually does. She reviews better than I do. I'm
Okay.
very much voice recorder is
Okay.
basically my go-to.
Well, that's my way my wife is.
I mean, I'm very simple. I mean, I like to play with all the toys, and I love to have all the toys with us. I think we both do. I mean, it's fun to
Yeah.
have a REM pod, and it's fun
Mhm.
to see that. But for the most part, Amanda and I go into it just basically us. Like we're very experience driven
Okay.
investigators versus
Yeah, understood.
the data driven
Yeah, I'm a
investigators, if
data-driven.
that makes sense. So
Yeah. So,
we do listen. Amanda will listen to it, and then I usually am the one being like, "Really? Is that what you think you heard?"
that's okay.
And I'm like,
But
yes.
yes, she does. She catches stuff I never would. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do stuff a lot differently. I actually use a lot of laboratory kind of equipment, and we do like double blind studies, we do research, that kind of stuff, and we collect a lot of numerical data. So I got a lot of statistics to do. I got a lot of, but the great thing is I don't have the gifts like Amanda and Jay do, and so I really can't rely on feelings or things or the way
Right.
stuff is. So I put in high-end scientific equipment that measures, dozens of things all at the same time and records them every second.
Wow.
And so then we go through our sessions, our EVP sessions, or whatever you're going to do. And then we try to get them to touch the instruments or manipulate, or, hey, can you create a magnetic field here? Can you make some radiation over there? Can you do these things? And then we go back through our video and compare the readings from the instruments to whether they did the thing or not. And then we apply some statistics, and then we can actually give a number to say, yep, they did it with, 80%, thought, or, 10% or whatever, And so that's how I do my investigations, which is really strange compared to the normal world, but I came at
I love it.
from the science, and I build on my own equipment. So
Right.
I would love to investigate with people like you. I have a bunch
Yeah.
of, I have a
Well,
few
we
friends.
can.
We invest. Yay! We
let
have
me
a bunch
know.
of friends, and we investigate with a lot of different teams. I mean, we're a team,
Yeah, I do
but
too.
we basically like to tag along with everybody. We're
do.
pretty
That's how I
social
get most
people.
of them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I love when I investigate with investigators like that think like that. I love to watch you work because
Yeah.
I love to see that side. I mean, I love to investigate with Amanda too, and with mediums. I love that. I love all of it, but I really like to watch the scientific
Well,
method
you'll
play
see
out.
things. Also, if you go back, I don't know, a whole bunch of episodes, you'll find the one where I actually did a sample investigation, and I actually showed the data and showed how the tools work and what the tools were. And so,
He created this board. It's called the device. And
Yeah.
he created this himself.
Wow.
totally from
And
scratch.
yeah, and we have an actual podcast with just him talking and describing it. It was on the camera, and he had this whole thing. He described what everything does on that thing.
Yeah.
And it was
I want to see
yeah.
So the idea is, the great thing
Yeah.
about it is it replaces an entire van full of equipment with one.
that.
It
Yeah.
does. It
You
really
set
does.
it down,
It
you
really
turn
does.
it on,
Yeah.
the computer
Right.
records with no human bias,
Right.
and it records onto a thumb drive, and you plug it into your computer, and then you do math on it, and you come
Can't
up with
fake
and
that.
We do not very
Now,
often, but we do
now-
get stuff.
I think that you guys, I love this story, so I sometimes get Shane to tell it. So I think you guys are really gonna like this story. It's about the battleship, the Michigan. Remember the lightning storm? You got to tell them that story because of the fact that it's my favorite. I love this.
Yeah. So we're in this ship. It's called the LST 393. It's in a museum now, but it was actually on the shores of Normandy in D-Day. It was live. It dropped troops, and it pulled out, and it made it out without getting major damage.
Wow.
Now it's in Michigan at the harbor here in Muskegon. So we went out there and did a 3-day investigation. The second day in, the wife and I were up in the wheelhouse, which is where the the map room is, and where the radios, and then the big steering wheel for the ship, where the captain hangs out, basically, and his navigators. Well, we're up in there, and me being a ham radio operator, I looked at all that old radio equipment. I was like, well, you know what? They left the antennas hooked up to this giant ship. So I went out in the car, got one of my ham radios, brought it in, hooked it onto the old 1940s antennas. And at first, we were just getting noise and garbage and not really much happening. Well, after about an hour, we started to get a storm coming in off of Lake Michigan. Well, then I noticed that whenever the lightning would go, all of a sudden you'd get this old 1940s style preacher, it's like, God will be with you. Like, just one of these old, nothing like you see any thing nowadays, and it would only last the few seconds that lightning strike would go, and then it would fade off into the noise and be gone. Well,
That's
eventually
so
it started we'd hear things that were like, emergency, we've been hit, and then it would fade off. And then, then you would hear this preacher come back in again. And of course, the frequencies that we were on, even nowadays, are still valid, but they are only for commercial shipping. There should not be preachers on there. There should not be emergency, we've been hit, kind of thing. There should not be other voices on there. And like I say, it would only happen during the lightning. And I actually have the full audio recording because my computer was recording all this at the same time. And we played it back. And this isn't like an EVP where you're like, well, I think it said this. You could play this in front of a whole audience. They'd be like, oh, yeah, that's an old preacher talking, or that's, some military guy talking. It was very, very clear, it was just amazing. And like I say, it only happened when the energy of the lightning would get really bright out over the lake.
Yeah.
And as soon as the lightning would stop, it would just fade down to nothing.
That's crazy.
That's the coolest thing.
I would love to hear that footage.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I have the audio. I can get it to you guys. So
yeah, that would be awesome. I would love it.
Yeah. So that's my favorite story because of the fact that just goes to show that with like electricity and when people go and do invest, energy is all that energy.
Have you guys ever investigated the Farrar School in Iowa?
Mm-mm.
Oh, you guys want to do that one too? That one has some weird stuff.
There's a lot of stuff I want to do up there. We haven't been past through Kentucky, I think, Indiana-ish, but we haven't done much up your way at all.
I'm going to do the Hensley House.
The Hinsdale
by New York.
The Hinsdale.
Yes, I've had friends that have been up there. Yeah,
got it booked. I don't remember the exact number of the day, but it's booked to go.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
it's the Hinsdale House, and we had
Hinsdale.
Hinsdale
House.
Hinsdale.
Yeah, we had somebody.
So if you guys ever want to see this crazy stuff, I can show it to you, and then like I say, we can do investigations too. I mean, I have friends.
I'm always down.
Yeah,
I have friends that live in Georgia, so I could have a place to stay that was fairly close. I mean, it might be 3 hours, but something like that.
That'd be awesome. I'm a volunteer. I work at Haunted Old South Pittsburgh Hospital.
Okay.
I'm a volunteer there, and I chaperone the overnights and do tours and stuff like that. So if you ever come down.
Yeah. This gentleman here, Robert Ringy, is a friend of mine, and he had a ladies. I would love for you both of you to meet with some of the children whom I mentor, children of the paranormal. Robert is a very, very good psychic medium, and he's a very good friend of mine.
Yeah, he's cool dude. So, we had him on.
Yes, awesome. Yes. If you go back and you look at some of our old episodes from season 1, you could see that Robert's on there, and he's very knowledgeable, and especially for helping other people who are gifted. I mean, that's just, his resume is huge. But,
I brought up the Farrar School.
It's nice to meet you.
Yeah.
I've often thought about maybe working with kids. Because I have had my abilities since I was a kid, and I didn't recognize them for what they were, and it was really difficult, and I thrive in acts of service for others. You know, that's kind of where my forte, where my joy comes from, is being able to help
Awesome.
others. So I
Right.
think that would be a really good idea for me, actually.
Yes. Yes.
You're great with
So,
kids anyway.
Nice to
Yeah.
meet you, ladies. Very
Nice to meet you too,
Robert.
Robert. I want to talk more later.
Yeah. Oh, believe me, he could talk to you. So let's get a little bit back to the documentary. Can you tell us on some of the things that you witnessed when you did the investigation with Kane? That what is a little bit of the prevalent stuff in that documentary that you would say would be eye-opening?
I think, do you care?
Yeah.
I think for me, because like I said, I like to investigate with other people, and I like to see and I like to be with people when they have personal experiences, because you can't take that away from somebody.
Right.
I mean, it's paranormal or it's not. It is what it is. But someone's personal experience is their experience, and to be included in a personal experience, especially if it's a super intense one, is super humbling. And kind of like Kane had some very intense, I don't want to say intense, I guess, but very personal experiences during this movie. And just being able to share the room with him when that happened was,
That would be cool.
Yeah.
that was something. I mean, paranormal activity aside, just being in a room with someone that is experiencing that hasn't really ever before, because Amanda can attest, he's always said that the activity stops when he's around.
Yeah.
That happens
And so
to me.
Apparently it happens to Kane quite often, because he was very sure that nothing was going to happen to him during this
Well,
during
women
this
always
filming.
seem to be able to get more responses than us guys do. We can't do it.
He had some pretty good experiences, and I think even at the end of the movie he says that it was one of the most uncomfortable places he's ever been put in. And
Sure.
for someone that makes a living off scaring people, that was pretty good.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Like, being able to not only be there for me, but for me to get to be a part of this profound moment that he had, that was just really cool. You know, on so many levels. You know, not only just the experience itself, but just being a horror fan too, and kind of looking up to Kane the way that I do, and then just to get to be a part of this moment was just
Right.
the thing ever.
Right. Yeah, that's one of those things where it's kind of like when you share, like she said, share the room with somebody that's had that experience. You know what I mean? That
Well, I got to unknowingly deliver these profound moments to him.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You know, it's like literally
To be the
minutes
conduit
later, like,
through all this.
Right.
you know.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's just like I said, you're talking about, like your gifts. I mean, you've got a lot more ahead of you, and so just be prepared. Because
I hope so. I feel myself growing every day.
you are,
And,
yeah. Well,
you know,
most
and
definitely
people
you are.
want people, and you probably get this too. But you've been able to label yourself. You've done this long enough, and I don't even really know what I am. I call myself an empath because that's how it started. But my abilities are different everywhere I go. I mean,
Yeah, it's
I don't
just
call
good.
myself a medium, but like I often have experiences where I'm
Yeah.
at a movie theater and I'm getting a message for this lady 3 rows back. You know
That
what I
is
mean?
that is a medium. That is.
Exactly. And but I don't
so
I don't know to. I'm
you don't
fine
want to
with my
label
label.
yourself that. I understand. I get it. I get the same thing.
Well, I don't want to
Like,
say I'm a medium, and then people be like, "Okay, well then talk to somebody." What if
Right.
I can't right then?
Because
And then
the
I'm
fact
like,
that
You know, it's
it
good on
dummy.
it doesn't work that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it does. You know what I mean? Where they say, "Well, can you do this? Can you do?" I'm not a sideshow. You know,
Yeah.
I can't just make things happen.
Well, and I often
No.
say I'm not a psychic. I can't tell you your future, but sometimes I can.
Yeah. Well, that's true because of the fact that you're prompted to do so.
Yeah.
Mediums are prompted. It's not like we go out looking for this thing, but if you go to a location and you happen to interact with somebody that's deceased on that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a reason why you were there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's kind of like a prompting. So it's not like
Yeah.
there are people out there that try to just to make money for this, which is in the to me, I don't like to charge, but I had to get over that hump of, okay, yes, I have to charge people. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. You know, I understand that because I am giving a service to somebody, helping somebody.
Right.
So it's hard to get over those little hurdles, but once you do, you'll feel better about yourself. But
Yeah.
you know what I mean. But it's
Yeah.
just, and here's Adam saying, Adam Feek is a good friend of ours as well. Is looking marvelous this evening. Shane.
Great. I haven't seen Adam's awesome.
We've had Adam on our show too, and we had a lot of activity at the hotel here when I was doing the show with him, when he was talking about Lizzie Borden. I had one of these little things that go off, okay, and it was going off when he was talking about it, and then
way in the back. There wasn't anybody near it. Just
nobody near it, near it, but it was just in the camera shot, and so yeah. So yeah, you know, there's different experiences for different people who are gifted and people who don't choose to follow that path. You know what I mean? So like I said, the two of you together is just like great chemistry.
Yeah.
You know, Robert had said that what do you say? Robert said, "Ladies, your spirits are beautiful."
Oh, thank you.
So yeah.
Thank you.
So, you know, it's just one of those things where being in this field, I was trying to be just a paranormal investigator. That wasn't the path that I was supposed to be on.
Yeah.
Just like you will experience it, and maybe you'll experience different things too. There's different paths we both take. You know what I mean? So I mean, I did want to ask you a question about have either one of you had a terrifying event? Something that really made you scared, like
Yes.
to the breakers at the end of the hallway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was nothing.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have.
My experience was at St. Albans Sanitarium in West Virginia. Yeah. Do you know anything about the building or the history? It was a hospital at one point, an asylum style hospital. And then after that, it turned into a boys' school. And at the boys' school, it was a private school. It was all wealthy families. And it was a very sports motivated school. They had a lot of really, really, really good athletes. And so it was kind of a mixture of really good athletes and very, very smart kids. And so in those environments, I mean, it sort of fostered a pretty negative bullying situation. There were lots of suicides and things like that, physical violence. And that was after the asylum. But when I went, I was about 7.5, 8 months pregnant. And I was in the basement, and this guy, and I say this guy, but it was this entity, you know, he looked like this like, I don't know, like a greaser, 50s greaser type of guy, you know, like leather jacket, really a good looking guy. But he had this other form that he was taking that was terrifying. And he was like tormenting me. And we were in the basement. There's like a bowling alley and then a boiler room. And he came up and was standing like on me, like, and he wouldn't get off of me. And at that point, that's when it's the only time during an investigation that I've had to look at them and say, guys, I can't do this. I gotta leave.
The intimidation factor was really high.
He was messing with me hard. I don't know if it was because like he thought I was pretty or if it was because I was pregnant, but you were in
his space.
And I was vulnerable, and I was in this like mommy protective mode anyway. Yeah. So I guess I was a little hypersensitive too. But he was like, I've never had another one do that. Like literally breathe down my neck like that, you know?
Oh, I have. It sucks.
My wife's had him touch her hair before.
Do what?
Yeah, my wife has had her hair touched before.
I've been touched
in a bar.
Yeah. I've been touched a lot. I get touched driving down the road. I mean, it's almost a daily occurrence at this point.
Yeah, I've been touched.
For me, it's more a hand
sat on
when I'm driving.
Yeah. So, Maeve, come on. What's your story?
All of my really crazy stories don't judge me, but they end up in the bathroom. I just I can't help it. For some reason, things come at me when I'm in the bathroom. But we were in Brushy Mountain. and in Knoxville, Oak Ridge area. And it was actually a pretty quiet night, but they have a brewery and a restaurant now. And so we were down in the brewery eating dinner and stuff before we did the investigation. And I had gone to the bathroom, and it was a huge, just public bathroom, and it had the air dryers where you dry your hands, and nobody was in there. I mean, there was people in there before me, but they all left, and I was washing my hands, and the air dryer at the end of this very long bathroom, the air dryer went off. And I guess it's because the room was so big and it's just a loud, echoey bathroom. Like I froze, like completely froze. I couldn't move. Like it came on and it was so loud, and like my flight or fight moment kicked in, and I kind of panicked. I had a moment. I'm like, I have to walk out of this place by myself.
Right.
And so I quickly walked to the door and went and grabbed Amanda and brought her back in. And so, and so we were in the bathroom, and we were just kind of making sure it worked, making sure there wasn't anything like loopy with it. And as we were leaving, Amanda goes, well, it would have been really nice if it had come on while I was in here, and it came on cue.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, yep, it's time to go.
It's time to go.
But that was, I mean, it was kind of cheesy. I get it. But when I was in there all by myself, and loud noises get me anyway, and it was so loud that I just kind of froze. Like my whole body was full of goosebumps, and I kind of froze. So
yeah, that's no judgment here. That's awesome.
Let's go.
We've had some terrifying stuff happen at the hotel after the.
I was going to bring that up too. We had one terrifying one that happened to us both at the same time, and that was super. I was terrified.
Yeah, that was a literal "I'm too scared to move" moment. I laid in the bed and pretended to be dead. I was like, no, like I did. I was like, I instantly went into like that scared 6-year-old mode, and I like literally wouldn't even move my feet. I was trying not to even breathe. I was so scared.
Go ahead and tell them a little bit about that one. That one was pretty good.
Yeah. Long story short, we had stayed at a hotel, and I mean, it was like an Econo lodge. It wasn't even like an old, like, you know what I mean?
You'd be what those lodges hold.
Yeah. Right. Those things are messed up. Yeah. We were just a few miles from a site of a really bloody Revolutionary War battle. Maybe that might have something to do with it. But we were in a suite, so our bedroom area was away from the living area. And I kept hearing, maybe 6 or 8 times through the night, I was woken up to what sounded like somebody like rustling around in the living room. And I kept thinking that maybe it was like Tony, you know, our director producer, because we had some equipment in the room. Maybe he was setting up equipment or doing something, whatever. And I just kept kind of writing it off as nothing and falling back asleep. But it kept happening to the point that I was like, there's no way that's him. And then the last time it woke me up personally, it sounded like somebody was scooting furniture across the carpet. Like it was loud.
No, that's the best.
And I listened to it come from the living room area and scoot all the way to the foot of our bed. And it was standing at the foot of our bed. And I'm too scared to move.
I was pretending to be asleep. I was totally pretending to be asleep.
It wasn't until the next day that either of us even realized that the other one even heard it, because we were too away to acknowledge that anything was going on. I mean, that was nuts.
Yeah, I didn't know she was awake, and I was just trying to play dead, and hopefully someone could grab my foot and jerk me out of the bed. It was terrifying. It was stupidly terrifying.
Yeah.
I've experienced that in different places. You know, being at different hotels. I mean, because they harbor who God knows what we want. You know what I mean? I mean, so yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's just one of those things that, and being just even being in public. You know what I mean? I mean, I could go to a Walmart and it's just like, ugh. You know what I mean? It's just so. But yeah, when you would at least expect a haunting, is where you're going to find it. You know?
For sure. Yeah. We've learned that the hard way.
Yes, most definitely.
Don't get comfortable anywhere.
No, it can be a brand new house. It can be, you know, something that's only a couple years old, or, you know, whatever. You know, I've walked into people's houses before and I feel beside myself. I'm like, oh crap, what's here? You know what I mean? So
well, it could be something on the dirt, even if the house is new.
The land itself is just, and that's the biggest thing for a lot of people don't realize, that the land, especially up here in Wisconsin and Michigan. Yeah. You know, I mean, a lot of Indians
were everywhere.
Yes. You know, and so, and me lucky enough to have one of my guys as an Indian, that which I required when I was going up to do an investigation. I needed that, and that was a moving experience in itself. But talking about the greaser guy in your face, I had that similar experience when I pulled up to an investigation up north in Wisconsin. I hadn't even gotten out of the car yet. I pulled up to this building, and I had this gangster guy, because it was one of those places where some of the gangsters would go up north to escape
Chicago.
cops or Chicago or whatever. And there were different small cells of the mob up there. And this guy was a foul mouth, saw me right away, and I could picture him, and he was screaming at me from the window, and I could hear him. And I called a friend of mine who was actually another medium. She could hear him over the phone screaming at me.
Right.
And that was totally intense. Long story short, I mean, it was what it was. But I mean, eventually, about a month later, because he could tell that I was talking with another medium, even though it was on the phone. She had to go there physically to help do whatever it was to get rid of something else that was nastier there, and this and that, da, da, da. I'm at work 2 months later. I'm at work, and I was on the phone with her. I was on my break, and I was talking with her, and about this guy and this and that, da, da, da. And she was saying that he was blaming me, and he felt threatened. And I said, that's not true. I wasn't threatening you. This and that, whatever. And I go back to work, get off the phone with her, go back to work, and I'm in work, and I'm working, and I hear this guy like, I'm really sorry. That's all I heard was, I'm really sorry. And I knew it was him. And I was like, okay. So it can happen anywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you probably Amanda will experience that a little bit more in the future, whereas you will get something in your ear if you don't already.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I do.
But always remember that you can't always help everybody. And that's what I had. That's my issue too. I have that. I want to help everybody, and I can't, as my mom would say, you can't save everybody. You can't, you know what I mean? So, but I just have to keep that balance. But when you guys first started, when did she find out about your gifts? When did Maeve find out about your gifts, or has she always known that you've been gifted?
We learned about them together, the confirmation anyway.
Okay.
I never felt a need to, I never knew. I guess that's exactly what was going on.
Right.
I've always kind of had a mind that rolls and never stops, and I have trouble sleeping, and
Right.
And I guess that it took a mentor recognizing that I had abilities and saying, hey, you do realize what's going on, right? Like,
right.
And so it was like, holy shit, like you're exactly right. Like, and she kind of taught me to differentiate my thoughts from other people's thoughts and things that were being fed to me. I always just kind of blamed it on the fact that I was a Gemini, because
well,
I thought that was like a Gemini trait that your brain never stops.
Welcome to the family, Gemini.
Thank you. But I always sort of blamed it on that. And that moment where I met this lady who recognized it in me, called it out immediately, and really helped me hone in. I was with Maeve when it happened. So I can honestly say that we've progressed my abilities together.
Right, and that's where the connection, I think that's probably where the real solid connection that really came together. I think that you guys, it's just awesome. When I see that between you two and see that connection, it's cool. You know what I mean? So I'm just like,
it really is special. Maeve and I have a very special friendship, relationship, bond.
Yeah.
I mean, we really do. And she was there for like my aha moment with my abilities too, where it was like, I can no longer deny this. Do you remember that Maeve, when we were at the hotel?
I was literally just going to say, I was waiting for it to get quiet.
Yeah, you tell.
Well, I've always, the scientific minded part of me is always just like, is this for real? Is she for real right now? And so like, there's part of my brain that was like, especially when she first started this, I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch, I'm going to learn this, I'm going to see what's happening. and see if there's a way I can explain this. And she's always been on point, like creepily on point with stuff that she should not be on point about. So, but it's Amanda, so I just let it go. And, but we had got, I'm a Sagittarius, so there's that.
Okay.
But we had gone, we were going to go to, I mean, it was a Halloween, it was in October a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, a couple years ago, 3 years
So
ago.
we were going to go to a haunted house and just have a good time. And we had
like
stayed
a
at some,
haunt, not
Halloween, like a Halloween haunted house.
Right.
And so we had gone to this, we had driven 3-4 hours. And so we were getting ready in the hotel, which was not special. And I'm getting ready. I'm like, come on, Amanda, let's get going. And she just bent over double. Like she couldn't breathe. She couldn't catch her breath. She was in pain. I was a tad aggravated. And I was like, you've got to get up. I said, we got to go. We're going to be late. Come on, Amanda. And she was really struggling. And once I realized she was really, really struggling, we started trying to figure out, okay, what do we need to do? What do I need to do to make you feel better? So I was going to run out to the car and get a bottle of water. And when I went outside, as soon as I went outside, our hotel room was along the interstate. And as soon as I went outside, I saw all the blue lights and all the ambulances. And somebody had crashed right in front of our hotel, and they had pulled out the sheets. So I'm assuming someone had passed away in that terrible wreck that was outside. And so I got the water and went back in. I was like, there was a wreck. And it wasn't, as soon as all of it got cleaned up, she was fine. And to me, we had no idea. There was no mirrors or no windows. And to me, that was one of the moments. And I was like, holy shit, she really picks up, like, she really does feel this stuff. It's not.
The inadvertently, you picked up that empathic and that
took her down.
It had a really like intense physical, my body had an intense physical response to the point that I almost thought I was having a heart attack. And we discussed calling 911 because I didn't think I couldn't understand what was happening, you know?
Right.
But I mean, in all fairness, our room was on the very end of the hotel, which happened to be maybe 30 feet from the wreck. So immediately it came
that
straight
energy.
to me. I was right there, you know, to grab it. So
that spirit, that soul, and that probably, you know, draw to the most brightest light, which was probably you inadvertently, and then it was like, nope, then it had to go. You know what I mean?
Well, and it was a really important moment for me because it made me flash back to all these times in my life that I've had this physical response that I didn't know what was going on. I mean, I've got in my medical records, I've went to the hospital in my 20s for a heart attack because I would have sworn I was having a heart attack. Like I thought I was dying. I mean, they've looked for medical conditions to explain it, and we can't find anything. And now I know why.
Right.
You know, so it was an important moment.
I specifically requested that my guide said I do not feel that because of the fact that I do have a lot of health problems, or I have in the past, and I wouldn't be able to just figure out which is which.
Yeah.
Because I've gone through so much of my health, it's my own issues. It's like I can't tell if this is spiritual. I can't tell if this is actually me. You know, so it's kind of like I specifically, you know, if I'm reading somebody or if I'm, you know, talking with somebody who's deceased, I'm like, do not make me feel this. Just tell me. You know what I mean? Because it's just I can't tell the difference. You know, and it's too hard to tell the difference.
I have trouble too. Especially with the anxiety, I have trouble too.
Yeah, and I, for the most part, I pretty much a little bit here and there, but if I'm walking in a place or, you know, a building or whatever that has activity,
we have an extra guest.
We do.
Yeah.
He's been crying. I can't believe you can't hear him. He's sitting at my feet crying.
No. So, you know, walking into a building or whatever, you know, I have picked up things that, you know, intermittently. But then I kind of just know, all right, as soon as I leave the building, then I'm fine. I'm like, okay, that's fine. You know what I mean? So, but
I'm glad I don't have all that.
I know.
It is
like whatever.
At first, you know, when I was younger, I thought it was like, why is this happening and this and that. But I know why now, so it's kind of like, all right. So I deal with it. But things are only only can get better. You can only get stronger. You will. Well, I could see
Yeah.
that already. So you guys have got something awesome coming up, and I know that it's something to do with you. So you guys be prepared.
I'm excited.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
pretty
gonna
stoked
be.
now.
Yeah. So I can't believe it's like 1 minute to 7. I can't believe where this hour go.
Yeah.
Wow, that was
Yeah,
so
I know,
fast.
right?
We just blasted right through.
Yeah.
Is this
So
only
it-
an hour show?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, I have so much I want to say about Balsam.
Go for it.
Go for
Get
it.
it in there. Do it.
Yeah.
You can do it.
Okay, so I want to. There's a couple things that I would like to say, just so that your viewers can hear this. If you've seen the film, if you haven't, it's really important for Wicked Wonders and H13 Media, Tony Cadwell. It's really important that everybody knows that we're not in this to get famous. We're not in this to get rich. We're not here to sell snake oil. We just want to document these experiences and let you guys watch it and you guys decide for yourself. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it was a ghost. I want you to decide for yourself what it is. We're not shoving anything down anybody's throats. Everything that happened on my life, every single thing that happened. Nothing was scripted. There was no second and third takes. We filmed for 3 nights, and we were lucky enough that the spirits cooperated and gave us something to show everyone. So that's super duper important.
So
that's the most important thing. We don't want anybody. We come from such a genuine place, and there's so much out there right now that's scripted.
Oh yeah.
That it's just so important to bring it back to the basics. You know what I mean?
Right,
And that's
right,
what we've
right.
really done here.
Right, and that needed to be said. I mean,
Yeah.
everything else aside, I mean, people, my viewers, and people that will watch this on YouTube or whatever, you guys are true, genuine.
Yeah.
I
we're
mean,
not here trying to
and
I can't act, even if I try.
try.
It's awful. It's terrible. You totally tell.
Yeah. Right. So having said that, I mean, you guys, like my friend Robert said, you guys are just have great spirits, you're great souls. I mean, just, so, I appreciate you saying that. Did you want to let everybody know where they can find the documentary film and
Please do.
and where you could talk a little bit about the Wanderers, the Wicked Wonders.
Yeah, we do have a Facebook page, Wicked Wonders. Both of us are moms, and we don't do very well with social media, but we do have a page, and so we do share when we can. We don't share daily or anything like that. You can get the movie. If you get the DVD, there's bonus features. You can get it at Barnes & Noble, Walmart. I mean, all the major retailers like that. Yeah, Amazon. You can buy it off Amazon. You can't rent it off Amazon yet.
Okay.
But you can go to Vudu. Voodoo Fandango, you can rent it there. Google Play has it.
YouTube.
There's a few other places I don't know off the top. I know Voodoo and Google Play were the bigger ones.
Okay.
Sure.
And so,
All right. Awesome.
You can go to where is it on Maeve? Is it on the Balsam, a Paranormal Investigation page, or is it? I think there's a link on there that has all the places listed where you can stream it now, and you can pre-order it on DVD. The hard copy will release on the 28th. And again, that'll be at Walmart and Barnes & Noble and Best Buy and Amazon and all the places. So
Very cool.
and you can feel free to friend me on Facebook.
Yeah,
Amanda flakes on Facebook, as she should. Because, well, if I have a hard time, I don't have abilities, and I have a hard time staying on social media. So I can't imagine if I was an empath how that would feel. So, but feel free to friend us, follow us.
Okay.
Very cool. Same with us too.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think me and Maeve, I think are already
disappear.
friends. So but well, I think that's about all the time we have. I want to thank our guests very much. So I mean, you guys were fantastic. I mean,
it was great.
It's been an awesome.
Told you we'd have fun.
Yeah, I told you. Yeah, it was a blast.
Thank you so much for having us. It was a lot of fun.
It's
Definitely would like to talk to you guys later too.
Oh yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
If you need, help or whatever with your equipment, whatnot, let me know.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
When are you going to patent that tool you made?
I
You know,
told
I haven't
him
thought about
to.
that. Other
I
people
told
tell me about that. You should do
Yeah.
something with that. It's like,
Mhm.
I'll buy your first one.
Seriously, I'm down. I will get it.
If you
Yeah,
can condense
right.
it all into one box, I am so down.
yeah, go ahead and say, watch the previous episode, dig back through and find it. You can see exactly
Yes,
how it is.
for sure.
Yeah,
So,
most definitely.
Yay,
All right,
thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you so much. And I will have this probably out on YouTube in the next few days. You can still check it out probably in the next hour or so on the Studio 6 Paranormal Podcast, Manifest Network, and Wisconsin Paranormal Research page. So I want to say thank you again to our guests. And Shane, we will see you later.
all right, see you guys.
Bye.
Thank you.